Hey there, I'm Jessica from Shutterstock, and basically you can call me your official design guide as we go through this zine-inspired tutorial. I love this trend for 2019 because it stems from some really cool subcultures that basically defy all traditional design rules. So that's exactly what we're gonna do today. We are going to break all the design rules in this tutorial to make a digital collage. But before we get started, be sure to download your free textures so you can follow along. And let's head into Photoshop right now to get started. Here we are in Photoshop. So this is the digital collage that I have created that we will be working with today. You can easily create your own by modifying different photos, adding cutouts, and different images into one Photoshop file. You want to make sure that everything is on different layers, and your whole design doesn't have to be perfect because the beauty of this trend is it is raw and unpolished. Today we're going to be covering a lot with different layers and blend modes, so I want you to make sure that you have your layers panel up, and if you don't know where that is right now, let's head into Photoshop and I'll show you how to set that up. We're going to go up here to Window. We're going to click Layers, and we're just going to click and drag this into our workspace. We're going to be using this a lot today, so we want to make sure that we have it easily accessible. Next, let's move on to clipping masks. So this is a really great way to isolate your texture into a part of your digital collage, and I will show you how to do that right now. So now we're going to add our first texture into our cutout. So in order to do that, we're going to go up here to File, we're going to Place Embedded, and we are going to add this asphalt texture. So I'm just going to double click this to add it in here. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to make this a bit bigger because I want it to be covering the entire cutout right here. So then I'm just going to place it in the desired position, and I'm just going to click the Move tool in order to place this into our actual Photoshop file. I want to make sure that the asphalt is on top of the cutout, so I'm just going to click this texture and I'm going to drag it just right on top of this cutout layer. I'm going to hold down Alt and Option, and I'm going to hover in between asphalt and cutout until I see this little box with the line, because this is how we are going to make the clipping mask. I'm going to just click right there, and as you can see, we made our clipping mask. And if we want to further customize this, we can always just go in here and we can actually move around our texture until we get the desired position that we like. So to take this a step further, I'm going to add a stroke around this cutout just to add a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to click this cutout layer, and I'm going to go here to the layer style. I'm going to click stroke, and I'm going to add a 29 to 30 stroke size. You can play around with whatever you'd like, and you can also change the color right here if you double click this. I'm gonna keep this at black, and once we're done with all of these settings, we're going to click OK. And now we have this cool outline that adds a little bit more dimension. And the next thing that we're going to do is change the color of our textures. And now I'm going to add a new texture in here. So I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to Place Embedded like we did before. And I'm going to add this slab texture. So I'm just going to double click this right here, and I want to make it a bit bigger because I want all of the detail to come through. And once we're done with that, we're gonna click the Move tool, and I'm gonna place this right in here. Another thing that I love about the zine trend is it's all about colors. And we don't have to follow any certain rules about colors. It's all about clashing colors and bright colors and colors that don't go together. And I'm gonna show you how to add some color to your texture, because as you can tell, they do come in a grayscale. So I'm gonna show you how to customize your colors right now. Now to change the color, I want to open up this texture into a new file. So I'm just going to double click this right here in my layers panel, and it opens up into a new file. So I'm going to go up here to Image, I'm going to go to Mode, and I'm going to go to Duotone. I am going to set this to blue, but if you want to change the color, you're just going to double click here. You can change the color, you can add your color code in here, and once you're done, you're going to click OK. And then you're going to click OK once again. And from here, we want to make sure that we change this image mode back to RGB. And once we do that, we're just going to save. So I'm just going to do Command S on my keyboard to just save this image file. Now, once we go back to our Photoshop file, it's like magic. The file has changed the color into our Photoshop file as well. So now that we have this done, we are going to make a layer mask. So I'm going to hold down Command on my keyboard and click this text layer. So this is going to select everything on that layer, and while this slab layer is selected, and I'm just going to go down here to make a layer mask. I'm going to click that and our layer mask is made. So from here, I'm just going to move this a little bit. I want to move it down and I want to move it a little bit to the right. I want to make sure that this texture looks a little bit displaced. So once we're done with that, we are going to go to the blend modes, and the blend modes are right here in our layers panel. And for this one, you can play around with all of the different blend modes. For this, I really like pin light because I like how it allows some of the white and the blue to come through. But you can feel free and play around with each of these blend modes, because with each different color underneath and each texture will create a different result. So for this one, I'm going to keep it at pin light. The last thing that we're gonna do is we are going to add a texture into the background. So something that I love about this trend, it's essentially based off of using a photocopier like they used to do back in the day with these zines. So I'm gonna show you how to add some of that same texture right now. In order to do that, we're gonna do the same thing that we've done each time: File, Place Embedded, and we are going to add the light reflections. I love this texture because it really looks like it's been photocopied. So we're gonna add this to the background. I'm gonna hold down Shift. I just wanna rotate this, and I wanna make sure that this texture is completely covering my entire design. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna click the Move tool just to place this file in here. And now I'm going to move this texture behind everything else, but on top of the backgrounds layer. So I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to add it right there. So now I'm going to play around with the different blending modes. I want this to be a slight texture because we have a lot going on here, which is really fun, but I want to just make sure that this cool colored background comes through. So in order to do that, I'm going to go here to either overlay, or we can do a soft light. I like the way soft light looks, so I'm gonna keep it that way. But if we also wanna make it a little bit more subtle, we can go here and change the opacity. So I'm just going to keep this opacity at about 90. And after we've added this background texture, we are done with this design. All right, my wonderful zine makers. So that is it for today, and I hope you had as much fun as I did. Be sure to use everything that you learned today to create your own cool poster designs, invitations, promotional material like social media posts, and the list goes on. Here are just a few more of these amazing textures that you have to work with. And feel free to mix and match these up, embrace the wildness of this design trend, and have fun with these textures. And remember, most of all, to stay creative, and I will see you next time.